anchor who goes out and MCs.
Right.
As anchors, we've all been out and MC'd something. We wanted to find somebody who was actually doing something. We found amazing people. Our first honoree was our director, happened to be at Fox 11, who started a foundation, now it's a foundation, where she collects gently used baby clothes and gives them to teen pregnant mothers who have nothing.
Wow.
And she runs us out of her house. Her garage is packed with donations. It's really taken off, and we gave her the voice to say, you're not just that person behind the scenes. You are important. You're doing something important, and we believe in you.
Well,
Can I just say, too, you have the good housekeeping seal of approval. This is kind of the good news seal of approval. I mean, in one way, yes, we do help financially, and we kind of help guide them a little bit, but it's so rewarding to see these smaller charities that we've found become bigger charities and become more self-sufficient. And we sit back and go, wow, there's some great contagious power of good news.
Well, we hope that your effort is contagious. We'd like to see this in other major markets like Miami, New York, Chicago, San Francisco. Let me remind you that Ted Turner, when he started CNN back in 1977, wanted to do good news. He says, we're going to have an hour of good news every day. It lasted a week. So thank you very much for doing what you're doing and doing the follow-up that needs to be done.
And you know what? We're having so much fun.
We are. We really,
You should come to our fall.
Well, listen, if you let more men in, I may be there.
Hey, we need a few good men.
Thank you. Wendy
Thank
Birch,
you.
Christine
It's a pleasure.
Devine,
Thank you
very much. You're watching LA Business Today. Sharon, there you go. Two TV women who leave the studio and do more than just go home.
Yes, Wendy and Christine are certainly making a difference. Stephen Sample, the president of USC, in an address to the LA World Affairs Council, said LA is the de facto capital of the Pacific Rim, with a broad business base that interacts strongly with all the economies around the rim, and that our strength is our cultural diversity and intellectual capital.
Los Angeles County has a population of 10.4 million people. That's larger than most nations, with no other nation having the wealth of cultural diversity that we have right here in the City of Angels.
If any region can lead the fight for a better economy and better business through healthier food choices and greater philanthropy, it is indeed Los Angeles. The women in our show today are part of the cultural diversity and intellectual capital that keeps us on the move.
For sure. Thank you for being with us and LA Business Today.
Thanks. What is a red flag day? That's a day when you don't park your car if you see any fees, so emergency vehicles can get through. How do you know when it is? TV News will tell you, or the Los Angeles Fire Department can contact you via email or phone. Sign up at www.lafd.org/redflag. Remember, do this, don't park. Sign up for email and phone alerts, and that's our red flag day.
LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Good morning.
Hi. I'm here to discuss something that ties in with the issues of the committee, which would be the ability for businesses to expand. My business is on one street, actually one of 11 streets in Los Angeles, with no sewer system, even though we are surrounded by it on all sides. I'd like to see part of the economic redevelopment, the DWP grant, look at these 11 streets, ours in particular, which has an approved plan already in place but is somehow dormant for the last 10 years, and find out what we can do to get a sewer down our street so we can expand our businesses.
Where do you live?
North Hollywood.
North Hollywood. Who's the council member for that one?
Tom LaBonge. Been in contact already.
You've been in contact, and do you get a sense from Tom that he's working with DWP on that?
It just seems to be a lot of inertia.
Okay, well, thank you for your comment. When Mr. LaBonge gets in this morning, we'll make sure he hears your message.
There's a DWP grant up this morning. They're discussing that. I don't know if there's a way to amend their grant to look at these 11 streets, but it would seem like a big part of the recovery to allow people who are buying property on our streets unable to expand their businesses because they can't build because there's no sewer system on the street. That's the issue. So I started my business 10 years ago. I now have 30 employees. We're busting out of our building. We'd like to buy property next door to us, but we can't build on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the first item is the Community Development Department CDD application for the California Clean Energy Workforce Training Program grant, funds to amount $1 million for the LA Green Building Pre-Apprenticeship Academy. This proposed project would focus on green retrofit training for public and private buildings in the city. This would provide training for 200 low-income individuals with an emphasis on disconnected youth, ex-offenders, homeless, persons with disabilities, etc. Good morning. Would you describe?
Good morning. My name is Florita Avila, Senior Resource Development Analyst with the Community Development Department. This is regarding the solicitation for grant applications for the California Clean Energy Workforce Training Program. The purpose of this solicitation is to promote industry sector strategies for skilled workers in the industries related to energy, water efficiency, renewable energy, and transportation technologies. CDD proposes to submit this proposal on September 16th, and we applied for $1 million. We applied for $1 million. That's the Workforce Investment Board in partnership with the Community Development Department, the Los Angeles Community College District. $1-to-$1 match was required, and the WEB provided $2 million in ARA funds allocated for green sector worker initiatives. In addition to that, we're leveraging funding from the Energy Efficiency Block Grant, Community Development Green Building Retrofit Grant, as well as the CSBG-R allocated for smart irrigation. This, we are proposing the pre-apprenticeship training academy, and it's going to place emphasis on retrofitting both private and public buildings within the city, as well as the Los Angeles Community College District. As you mentioned, the target population will be 200 participants who will be participating in this pre-apprenticeship program. And like our construction talent initiative, we are catering to disconnected youth, ex-offenders, homeless, and individuals with disabilities. In addition, we are also including unemployed and and underemployed adults. This pre-apprenticeship program, the recruitment will be done mainly by our work source, family source, and one source centers. However, in addition, since the Los Angeles Community College District is participating in this program, they too will be doing recruitment and outreach. The program is going to be short-term certificate type programs. Many of them will be 7-week programs, and that's going to include green career exploration, basic skills assessments and various trainings, introduction to green building, renewable energy concepts, retrofitting, and there is going to be several job placements, at least 160 jobs, and these apprenticeship placements will be provided by the Carpenter Apprenticeship Program, Sheet Metal Workers Apprenticeship Program, as well as the Los Angeles Department of General Services will also be providing some of the placement. And
how do we see a long-term commitment for these folks once they get hired, and how do we go forward with that?
Definitely. Through the ARA grants, not only CDBG, CSBG, and the variable renewable energy grants that are coming through the program, CDD, along with the Los Angeles Unified School District, the Los Angeles College Community District, and other collaboratives are all working together to ensure that this program continues.
Mm-hmm. Please, were you going to add something?
Jaime Pacheco, Orozco with the Community Development Department. As you know, the City Council has passed a couple of ordinances focused specifically on green retrofit, the public sector building green program, and the green retrofit workers ordinance. Both of those are long-term commitments on the city's part to ensure that we rehab and retrofit public facilities and private facilities as well. So we're looking to develop this, expand this construction focus into the retrofit industry.
It really is great, obviously. It's a no-brainer from my end. Is there any way in which we can up the numbers of potential applications? Is it the match issue that's our problem? $1 million is great, but I'd like to see like 10 million or 20 million.
In terms of the match, we've identified $2 million in WIA ERA funds, as well as as Farida mentioned, the energy efficiency grant. We had $17 million leveraged there. There was another $2 million in the CSBG Smart Irrigation initiative. So we have roughly $20 million in terms of a match for this kind of activity. We didn't want to make the full commitment to it. We simply wanted to oblige with the requirements of the grant. We have identified 160 individuals as potential employees, 200 folks being trained for purposes of the grant, but we do anticipate with the WIB's investment in this particular arena that we will have substantially larger numbers over the course of the years.
Great. And what is your sense of a timetable when this would start?
The grant period is supposed to start with as early as October. Given the delays in the state, we would anticipate sometime in November we would actually be up and running on the program and the training. The Community College District already has modified their curricula for the cohorts that would be passing through this training. So it's fairly quickly that we would expect it to run forward.
Very good. Well,
and the length of the program is 18 months.
18 months?
Yes.
Yeah, it's certainly great, and appreciate you all putting your energy out and making this thing happen. Not only is it the greening that we look for, but it's the jobs that also will create careers for people, which would be very good. Did you want to add anything? Okay. Thank you. Item number 2. Item number 2 is the CDD and the CAO to present a verbal report relative to the status of the ARA Community Development Block Grant and Recovery Zones. The background on this is the city has the authority to issue up to $269.2 million in tax-exempt private activity Recovery Zone Facility Bonds, that's the RZFBs. These bonds must be issued by December 2010. There are 8 existing designated areas in the city where these bonds can be issued. One of them, of course, is in my area, the Airport Hospitality Enhancement Zone at LAX. Could we have the background on this and an appreciation of what we're looking at? Good morning.
Good morning. Sarai Bago with the CAO's office.
My name is Benjamin from CDD.
Talk about the report to us.
Well, since the staff report that was approved by Council on August 11th, the steering committee was formed, the CAO's office, the CLA, the mayor's office, city attorney, CDD, and CRA. And the committee has been meeting regularly. We've developed a fact sheet, screening application, put together the map of the recovery zone boundaries that was approved, and everything's been posted on the website for anybody to download. And we're in the process of developing an internal process outline for how we are going to review projects as the applications are received.
And also, CDD, as part of the steering committee, has been commissioned to do the outreach to the community, business community. We have held so far a couple of presentations to the IDA board, to the Hispanic Business Network, and we are scheduled to make presentations with African American Chamber of Commerce, Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation. We are scheduled to make a presentation on October 22nd in Hollywood, in East Los Angeles and Harbor. Scheduling is being worked out. So we will be reaching to every region in the city, making business community aware of these bonds, private activity bonds.
And what's your sense of a timetable on this?
We will, within the next 45 days, do all the presentations. These bonds have to be issued by end of next year.
Okay.
And all applicants have to, in fact, submit their proposals as soon as possible.
Very good, very good. We have a couple of public comment cards before we go any further. We have Ollie Jones and Kendra Moore. Come on up to the podium and share with us your public comment. Good. You just turn around and you could watch the public comment. Great. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Ollie Jones. And Mr. Rosenthal, you came to one of our meetings in Venice. I'm from Holiday Venice Tenant Action Committee. And you gave us you said you would help us in supporting us and keeping our buildings affordable. Right. And this morning I would like to ask you, would you give us stimulus money to help Holiday Venice purchase the buildings?
That's a very good idea. I can't comment on that, but I'm wondering if staff has an opinion of what you just heard here about Holiday Venice, which is a low-income complex, and the folks who live there would like to have an opportunity to purchase those facilities there. It's quite a beautiful setup there. Does this have any relevance to this?
Pardon?
No, I'm asking the staff.
I do not see a relationship. I didn't catch any relationship, no.
Okay. Well, when we finish our report, why don't we pull aside and have a conversation with her a little bit more about it. Thank you for that comment. Kendra?
Hi, my name is Kendra Moore, and I am a member of Power and also the tenant of the Holiday Venice apartments in Venice. And I came along with Ali regarding the stimulus money to see if there was money available to affordable housing to help save the Holiday Venice projects and also for affordable housing for people on the west side. That stimulus money would help a lot of people that needs affordable housing on the west side. I'm hoping that we're in the right meeting because everybody looking kind of confused. So I'm hoping I'm in the right meeting. And also to say to asked Rosendahl. We would have brought more people, but in our community, there's a big funeral that's going to be going on, so we couldn't bring a lot, but we took out the time to be here today. And also to talk to Rosendahl to see if we can get a meeting with you. Also, there was $50,000 that was promised to Power, and we wanted to schedule a meeting to talk with you about that and see if we can get a meeting to talk with you about that.
Very good. Yes, indeed. Yes.
Okay. Sometime within the next couple of weeks, is that fine?
We could meet right after this discussion.
Okay, thank you. And if you can, please think about the stimulus money for affordable housing.
Great. Thank you. Is there any reaction to the public comment about affordable housing, which is obviously a big issue for me and for my district, as well it is for the overall city, and I know Mr. Wesson as well?
Yeah, we could surely look into this as another project, to be included and evaluated. As excuse me, as you know, it would have to, sit in certain census tracts. It would have to meet eligibility, national objectives, for the use of stimulus funds. But it's something that we surely could look into.
Good. When we break from this, let's meet with those folks from Holiday Venice and see where we can move forward with that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Mr. Wesson, any comments? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it. Anything you guys want to add? Come on, bring us up to date. Where are we on everything, and where are we heading for next week? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Wesson, Bill Kreitz with the CAO's office. I'd like to give you a little overview, if I could. Jim Clark is not available today from the mayor's office, but he asked me to convey something to you, just to give you sort of a sense of what the timing is on the competitive ARA grants. He informs me that, again, and I don't know how typical or atypical this is. Hopefully it's an anomaly. But he just did want me to convey to you, as an example, the Department of Transportation submitted on May 22nd of this year an application under the TIGR program, and you've heard about the TIGR and the TIGER. Well, this is the TIGR, and it's Transit Investment for Greenhouse Gas and Energy Reduction. It was an application that was submitted to the federal government on May 22nd. We were just notified that they are going to begin evaluating those applications, but that awards will not be given out until May of 2010. So that's about a 12-month period. Now, again, I don't know how typical that is. Hopefully it is not. But he did just want me to convey to you just that some of the reason you're not seeing more money come into the city right now is it seems at the federal level there are probably some complexities that are occurring, and certainly they're getting a lot of applications. And he just wanted me to point this out to you as one example, that it's about a 12-month period between application submission and award of funds, assuming we do get a grant award. More of an FYI. But if I could go into... When did
this start to give us that sense that it's a year now, which that's the first time I'm hearing this kind of a time frame?
Yes, one of the mayor's staff in Washington received an email from the federal agency notifying them of what the process was, and that came to us this week. So, Jim, and again, I don't know, I haven't seen others like that, but hopefully this is not going to be typical, and I know the mayor's office is working with the federal agencies, granting agencies under ARA, to see if we can expedite this process a little bit. And this is for competitive grants, not formula. Formula, little different process. But for competitive grants. And again, I think he more or less wanted to alert this committee as to what may be the typical time frame from application to award. And again, I'm using typical very conservatively. I hope that is not typical and that we start to see more awards. But I did just want to convey that particular instance to you.
Do you know how much we have in the pipeline right now that might be affected by this?
Well, right now, according to our dashboards, the city has submitted, let me look here. I actually do have it on all the dashboards on the website, but we have submitted requests for, let me just look here. We've requested $1,438,871, a total of 140 grant applications since the beginning, which is about April 2nd. So we have about $1.5 billion in requests that are with the federal granting agencies.
That's a lot of money. And all of that is somewhat in this kind of a time frame, or?
Well, you know, I'm not certain that we can really extrapolate that. I hesitate to say that. It was something Jim wanted me to send to you, and certainly it's an instance of a lengthy period. I don't know what to say. I don't think that that's probably going to be typical. And we have a lot of formula grant money that's already been awarded to the city. In fact, CDD has already been notified of a significant amount of formula grant monies. In the competitive arena, and it simply may be because in some cases these grant applications or these grant opportunities have been oversubscribed. I think a couple of weeks ago Jim was here and he mentioned that when he was back in Washington, he understood that one or two opportunities that had come up when meeting with the congressional delegations had been oversubscribed like 8 or 10 to 1. So again, I don't know how typical that is, but we are hearing rumblings like that from Washington.
Is there anything we can do as a city to change that dynamic?
You know, I know the mayor's office is on top of this right now. I don't know what those efforts what's resulted from those efforts at this point, but I know that they are working with the congressional delegations and the federal granting agencies to expedite this award process.
Mr. Wesson.
Mr. Wesson.
Quick question. You know, what's the difference between the competitive and the formula, and are most of the grants that are out there, are there more formula or more competitive?
Let me speak to the second one first. I believe we have a dashboard here for you. By the way, I might add, for those who are watching television or listening to this, all the dashboards that I'm referring to, I think you might have them in your package, but for the audience, these dashboards are on the LA Recovery website. And if they want to go to recovery.lacity.org while they're watching this presentation or listening to this presentation, they can look at those dashboards. They're up and they're current. So I'll just...
And just let me say, if to the people that are watching this, they need to get a life. I mean, if this is the best that you could do Friday morning at 9:30. Well, but God bless you all.
I admit I may not be the most exciting person to be watching at 9:30 in the morning.
But you've got a great voice. You could be, I mean, should give you some sports or something. Yeah. But now, you were going to talk about the formula.
Yes. I'll yield to Diego here, but I also have some dashboards I can refer you to as well.
Good morning, council members. Diego Alvarez, Deputy Mayor on Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs. Just to answer your first question, the formula grants are grants basically where Congress has appropriated money to an account, and either there's a legislative formula or a regulatory formula that distributes that money automatically. And the competitive grants are grants where they set a pool of money aside, and then the departments set up a competition where the city must apply and compete with other cities out of one pot. So the majority of funds in the stimulus bill are competitive. The reason that you've heard more about the formula funds is because those were automatic and they got out the door faster.
Okay.
Essentially.
Did you want to add more to that?
And if I could, that would just segue perfectly. Council member, there is as part of your package, and one of the dashboards on the website has 2 pie charts, and that I won't go into too much detail because of time, but that does reflect the percentage or the number of competitive and the formula grants, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but the detail is also behind it. There are 5 pages of detail that go into the specific items, so you might want to look at that, or your constituents would be able to look at that on the website.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. If there's time, I would just proceed a little bit.
Please.
Okay. That sort of stole my thunder on the dashboards. I was going to say that we have 6 new dashboards, and our database report is up on the website, and that's available on the inter and the intranet for you to review. I will say this. There's been a proof of concept plan for looking at a grants management tracking system. And I would like to give ITA the credit for leading that effort. We have reviewed with ITA, the CEO's office, and city departments and the mayor's office. We have seen 5 out of 6 proof of concept software demonstrations this week. So I did want to let you know that we're We have one more to go, I believe, next week. Just want to give you a little heads up, a little status report on that aspect. Also, the first OMB what we're calling the dry run reports, have been submitted by the departments on September 4th in anticipation of the October 10th reporting to the OMB. We have evaluated those in the CAO's office, and we're getting comments back to the departments about whether there's some deficiencies or whether they did a great job in completing those reports. We're getting those comments out to the departments today, beginning today, so they can start looking at where they need to prepare for or where they might need to improve their OMB reports in anticipation of October, and then after that, the quarterly reports. That'll be going out today. Also, we have an exciting thing for you. I'm going to hopefully be able to demonstrate this to you in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But we've been able to geocode the ARA grant applications and the awards so that we can show by council district what projects are being applied for and what have received awards. And when you go to a map, it's actually very cool. When you go to a map, it'll show a little bubble, and it will show your council districts. Within those council districts, it'll have another little bubble, blue or green, to denote requested or awarded. And if you put your computer cursor on that bubble, you'll be able to see the information in a larger bubble that will give you detailed information about that grant. So we have a prototype of that we have developed, and we're hoping to roll that out fairly soon, and then hopefully we can give you a demonstration in this committee of that in the near future.
There's a large effort to redo the recovery website that we have, which is, I would say, not the most user-friendly website in the world. The reason that hasn't been fixed earlier, frankly, is because there's a lot of effort that goes into setting up the reporting system or getting the data right so that we have something to present that you can sort through and map out. And the dry run that Bill was referring to is part of a quarterly reporting system that's set up by the federal government. And it's all managed on the recovery.gov website. Recovery.gov is going to be like the one-stop shop for all things recovery related for citizens. And all of our information that we've been collecting, that you've seen presented here, will eventually be uploaded to that website managed by the federal government. So somebody who lives in the city of Los Angeles can go to the website, click on their area, the city, their community, and see the money that's come from recovery through the federal government, through the state government, through the county, through ourselves, all in one place. And we want to make sure that our information is as accurate and transparent and as possible, so that people don't get the wrong idea about what we're spending the money on.
Well, that's very good. And we had in my district last night about the $37 million on greening money and getting input from the community. And there were a lot of community leaders there that truly suggested some very fine ideas. So the community is engaged in this whole economic stimulus strategy.
Great. I just have 2 items for you. I won't go through the dashboards. Those are sort of self-explanatory. I will say something, Mr. Rosendahl, that you had brought up about the number of funding requests. To date, the city has submitted 140 funding requests, requests for ARA funding, to the tune of about $1.4 billion. I just wanted to emphasize that. We also, Mr. Garcetti catches me on this. If I have an error in the math, he catches me, so he's not here today, but I'm going to confess. We changed there has been a reduction of $448 million in what we call the awarded category, and that has to do with the economic recovery zone bonds that you heard about earlier this morning. I originally had placed those in the awarded column. Because it's bonding capacity, it's not truly awarded dollars. And after thinking about that a little bit, I decided to pull that out of the awarded column. So if you do compare this with some of your previous briefings, then you will notice that the awarded amount has gone down in relationship to that $448 million that I pulled out as a result of the economic recovery zone bonds. So it wasn't an error. It was just a judgment call on my part on how to show that.
The bonding capacity is obviously still with the city, but it was just skewing the numbers quite a bit to see something that had to be applied for, and that wasn't it's not a grant. It's hard to compare a bonding program to a grant, so it just made sense to pull it out of the data.
As a result, our awards are $333,543,000 so far to date. And we expect one grant application to be submitted to the federal government this coming week, a $4 million grant application, I should say, by CDD for what's called Pathways Out of Poverty. And so that would conclude my presentation, my overview.
Okay, the $1.4 billion, which is what we've applied for in various ways, shapes, or form, you've said that we've gotten approximately $33 million of that.
333.
333.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have another $1 billion in the pipe, and do you think this one-year process is going to slow it down by how much?
You know, I don't think so. There's been a lot of publicity about the process.
Yeah.
And I think just like the local governments, the federal government is having to ramp up because this is such an expedited process. So I think like the local governments, they are in the process of doing all they can to get this money on the street. So my personal opinion is that we will not see that length of time for these competitive grants. But that's just a gut level feeling.
Well, very good, very good. And let us know how we can help. But these weekly updates that we get here are helpful for the council as well as it is for the public outside.
I sure will.
Anything else you want to add to it?
Yes, good morning. David Esparza, Community Development Department. In our last briefing to this ad hoc committee, we had reported that our community development block grant, our application was being held by HUD for further explanation. And I wanted to report at this time that that application has been approved, that the award letters have been sent out to the qualifying agencies and projects that we have on that list. If you remember, there were 23 programs and projects that we had submitted under that application for a total of $19.3 million. That money has now been made available to the City of Los Angeles, and we are in the process of approving all of the various programs and projects that were on that list. Some of them are in different stages of approval. Many have had their administrative applications approved pending, contracts. The others have all had their environmental assessment been completed, and so we are moving very aggressively to get the money out the door.
Very good. Any other comments from anybody? Mr. Wesson, is there any comments about anything? Okay. At this point, thank you all very much, and have a great day. Okay. That's the end of the meeting today for the Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Recovery and Reinvestment of Friday, September 25th, 2009. Thank you.